Welcome, everyone, to the Masterclass on Purpose. I'm really excited for all of us to be here. And I'm always like, whenever I get a group together, I feel like a kid in a candy store. And I'm like, yeah, we're all gathering together. And it's so exciting. So I appreciate you taking the time today to come and join live. If you're joining live and if you're watching the recording, I am as excited about you watching the recording as about you joining live as well. So I'll give you an overview, and I decided to not have the slides, but I actually have some notes for myself that I have here. I decided to just have like my face in front of camera rather than, reading things off the screen. If you have any desire to have the notes from this masterclass, I'm happy to share. So this way you don't have to write and memorize things, but if you think you don't need them, I won't share them either. So let me know. So what's the plan for these 2 days? For today, it's a big overview on purpose. It's a big subject, but at the same time, I try to condense it and I try to make it digestible and somewhat organized. So we're not getting lost in kind of all the different micro nuances about purpose. And so we'll dive into the practical aspects of purpose. Tomorrow it's going to be rather an experiential day. So today I'll be talking, and tomorrow we will be practicing. And the practice aspect is quite energetic because the way I have structured tomorrow is that it's going to be more of a relaxation into purpose rather than figuring things out. So it's an energetic practice of coming back to your heart, coming back to yourself, going inwards. And through those little gentle shifts, this is how we really connect to the importance of the purpose. Another thing I'll be sharing with you today is the way to work with me. I have, over the last couple of years, no, now 5 years, have worked on releasing my fear around sales, because I have realized that sales are so important. One, this is my bread and butter, the work that I share with you today. But another thing is that I see the amazing transformations that my clients go through. And so for me, the sale aspect is almost like it's a part of me fulfilling my purpose of actually creating impact in people's lives. So I have been stepping out of the fear or shame around sales. And today will be my good practice of sharing this with you as well. So a few words, if you don't know me, about my background. My name is Maria Shiko, and I will be sharing with you some stories that are relevant to purpose itself. But also I want to give you like a very brief overview of how maybe I can conceptualize myself in my work. So I call myself a holistic um, business and life mentor, or spiritual business and life mentor. And the reason I kind of use all these three words with an and in between is because I have both the Western training. I have a PhD in applied psychology and statistics, and I've been a scientist in the research world and the university world for more than a decade. And I studied behavior change. And the reason this topic attracted me so much is because for most people, change is hard. And, I've worked with people in the context of research who undergo changes and, for weight loss, for changing their diet, for quitting smoking, drinking, things like that. But we actually undergo the change in our behavior on a daily basis. And if we choose it consciously and intentionally, we start aligning with the flow of life rather than being in opposition of life. And when I did the research, when I was like just approaching life and everything kind of mentally, I did a lot of research. I studied lots of theories and data and statistics, all of that. And what I have also realized is that none of that is actually helping me to change. And so I had to, so I'll be sharing with you a bunch of failures as well, personal failures. So none of this was helping me to change. And then I kind of dove into more alternative ways of studying change, which has to do with alternative healing modalities, energy work, conscious, subconscious work, subconscious reprogramming, and more of they're still called alternative, even though they're finding ways now in the mainstream sciences as well now. There is more and more research actually on the things that I'll be sharing with you today. But at the same time, all of you who are on the call today or will be listening, you are at the forefront, I have to say, because you are leaders, simply because you're interested in this topic and simply because you're open-minded about this topic, and so as I started diving into the alternative ways of changing behavior, changing different aspects of my life, what I have found is that they actually work and they produce much, much better results. I'll also share with you some of the client stories today. And so for that reason, I call myself a holistic mentor, or, spiritual mentor, because I combine both the Western and the alternative approaches to behavior change, because they work. And what I personally want is results. I don't care if it's called this way or that thing. What I care about is results, and they motivate me. They motivate me from my personal life and from my clients' lives. So I'll share with you, in the context of purpose, two stories just to get you inspired, really. The first is a lady who came to work with me about a year ago now, like maybe 11 months. So she came to me because she wanted to change her. Hi, Wilma. Sounds good. We're happy you're here. I saw that you joined, and I'm really happy that you're here. So this lady came to me and she wanted to change her relationship with money. And we often don't even think in that context of changing our relationship with money in the context of behavior change, but she basically wanted to have more income. So when she came, I think we did 11 sessions at this point, and she still has one session left with me from her package. But this woman changed over a course of a year so dramatically, from a person who didn't know where her life was going, and she was thinking, oh, maybe I should be doing this, maybe I should be doing that, to being quite clear that a big part of her purpose in this life is actually to be a CEO in her business. And it's a dramatic shift of energy, in the mindset, because on the one hand, you kind of walking around and you are thinking, well, can I do it? Should I do it? Should I not do it? And I actually remember the session when it happened. It was not the first session. I think it was session maybe 5 or 6 when it happened, when it was very clear, like the message that came through for her was that she is here to be the boss, that like that's her job, because she was like, oh, maybe I need to be doing this or I need to be doing that. And when that shift happened, and it was very gentle, there was no convincing involved. We were not like I was not trying to convince her to be the boss. It was just like a very gentle embodied message that came through, that really landed for her in her heart and her body. And it kind of came from the inside rather than the conviction process of, like, oh, let's push for it, let's step into it, let's do it. Like, it was not that type of energy. It was quite gentle. And when she accepted it, when she was able for this energy to kind of land in her life, in her mind, in her body, what started happening is actually she started taking action and showing up completely differently in her business. She became the CEO of her company. She attracted, I think I've shared the story with my email list, but she attracted $1.5 million in grants. I think now it's close to 2 million in grants and funding. She hired a substantial amount of people to help her. She just stopped doubting herself all the time, stopped doubting her skills, stopped doubting her worthiness or what she is to do. So really, she accepted her gifts and talents. And this is, I think, a huge correlation between money and self-worth and accepting our gifts, because when that happens, we start owning the impact that our work has on people's lives. So this is the first story. The second story is completely different. I wanted to actually give you very different examples from different areas of life. So the second person who came to me, actually, she's a very recent client. I've only had 4 or 5 sessions with her, but already the results have been quite dramatic. So this person came to me because she was struggling quite a bit in her interpersonal relationship and marriage. And she's a psychiatrist by training, so she has had lots of like psychotherapy, traditional therapy, and she knows a lot of theory. And there was like nothing she could do about like just feeling okay in her partnership, in her romance. And I think it was just like one or two sessions that the shift from going down, she started going up right away. We still have quite a few sessions that we are going to be spending together. We are working until I think June or July, but already from the 4 or 5 sessions that she had with me, what happened is that she started stepping into her purpose, and her purpose was to actually also be a leader in her field. And the leader in her field that did not require her to only use the medical degree, but also step into this path of using the non-traditional practices in combination with her training. And so once she accepted even her aspect of spirituality, that's when her relationship started going up. She accepted herself, or I would say not fully accepted, but she's in the process of accepting herself, being a leader in her profession, and also being a leader in her family. And by being a leader, what I mean is taking responsibility. Really, this is what I mean, taking responsibility. I'll dive into that a little bit more. And I also invite you, if you have any questions, please interrupt me. I don't want to just talk at you guys, ladies. Like if you have any questions, write in the messenger, and I'll address them as they come up. And if it's not appropriate at the moment, I'll address them in a little bit later. So why I'm sharing with you these stories, I will also share with you the stories from my personal life, is that when we really accept and step into our purpose, and it's scary at times, I won't admit, is that things begin to change right away and quite a bit, because we stop playing small, we stop giving the power away to this or that, we stop being a victim in life, and we actually start being more in our heart, more in our body, more in our potential of what we here are for and what we came here to do. So the purpose today, the kind of the lens from which I'm viewing the purpose is, I think it's important for me to share that, because I have training in kind of different modalities in addition to what I've mentioned. I've practiced Buddhism, I have a degree in metaphysics, and even metaphysics doesn't have one perspective on purpose, to be quite honest. I've also tapped into the Kabbalah studies and quantum physics and work of Brian Weiss on past lives, like all kinds of stuff. And while there is no unified universal truth, and this is like a kind of a black and white way of thinking, I don't think it's possible even to think and live a life with a black and white thinking. But a lot of these approaches, what they do have in common is several things. And I really want to zoom into those approaches. One is actually waking up to the power that is within every single person. Waking up to that life is not simply happening to us, and we're not passive recipients of life, but we actually can make changes, we can create changes. Another important thing from all of these approaches and all of these different studies is that I have realized that while in the mainstream, there's a lot of discussion about what is God, God, is this God this, is that God that, but actually in a lot of these approaches, it's really not the study of God, but the study of the human, study of the vessel. There is different terminology that's being used, but the study of the human. So whatever you believe God is, it actually makes no difference. It actually is irrelevant because what is actually relevant is how do you embody this energy. And a lot of the transformation and why this is so relevant to the behavior change is because it takes focus from like this theoretical debate about God. It places it and shifts the focus on you, because the idea is that to embody the purpose, to embody the energy, and to live it in your life, you have to make the shift from kind of this theory to actually taking responsibility for being the vessel of this divine energy, being the vessel and the co-creator of this, of the life experiences. And that is a huge shift, because that makes the God energy available to everyone. And the carrier of the God energy is available to everyone. But the idea is to remember it, to remember that you have a choice to embody this energy, and to also take the responsibility. And what I mean by taking the responsibility is to come out of a reactive state of being. And this is really important, and this is going to be part of your homework, really, homework for tomorrow, maybe for the rest of your life. But the reactive state of being implies thinking thoughts on autopilot, or reacting to things that are happening in your life on autopilot, or oh God, I mean, and tell me, I'm not judging it, because let me tell you, I react plenty, fully, but substantially less than 20 years ago or 15 years ago. So I see it as a process rather than perfection. And if you take any aspect of your life, be it business, be it money, be it health, mental health, physical health, parenting, and we'll talk about all these different avenues of your life. My invitation for you is to ask yourself, where am I going on autopilot? Where am I reacting? Where am I taking things for granted, that life is happening to me, that I don't have control over these things? And I love one of the phrases that actually, I think his name is David. I even wrote it down. Let me find it. David Guyam, I think that's how you pronounce his last name. But anyway, he's a Kabbalah teacher, and he says, if whatever happens to you on your daily basis, if something negative happens to you in your life on a daily basis, can you pause? Can you acknowledge that this is happening, and that's happening when you have a reaction, and say, what a pleasure. Thank you, universe. What a pleasure. You're giving me the opportunity to awaken. So instead of like thinking that you're a victim, or thinking that, okay, this is happening, you're like, okay, this shit just hit the fan. What a pleasure. What a pleasure. I'm grateful for this situation. I'm grateful, like, my kid is screaming and my husband is not pulling his half of the workload, and my client needs me to respond to the email. Pause. What a pleasure. I'm feeling overwhelmed right now, or I'm feeling that things are out of control right now. And this moment of noticing and saying to yourself, okay, what a pleasure, actually creates you to the light. It connects you to the internal light, and it gives you a moment to reframe yourself from actually being a victim to taking responsibility for your life. Give me thumbs up or some kind of sign if this is making sense. Okay. All right. Good. I think I have a very advanced group here. That's
So
good.
can I repeat what if I understood what you said? So basically, we um react, and then we like flow, and we just basically notice where we start to feel, and that is what we need to concentrate on, essentially, and not become a victim. I guess I'm just trying to
Yep.
digest,
Yep.
so like, because you cannot react to everything. You'll be like, basically just so stressed out. So it's just this recognizing the things that really important to us, and react to those things, and be honest with certain red flags, I guess.
Well,
That's
the
how I,
idea
that's
the
how I
idea is
interpret it.
actually to not react at all. The idea is to not react at all, and the idea is to co-create. Like, let's say your boss calls you in and says, "Oh, Olga, like, what you did, the document you gave me is a piece of crap. Like, you have made 5 mistakes," right? And you're like, what an asshole. This is what's happening in your head. Like, what an asshole. I just spent like 8 hours on creating this document, right? So and instead of doing that, you are pausing, you notice the reaction, you notice the thought that's coming in your head, what an asshole. And you're like, universe, what a pleasure. What a pleasure. This guy is criticizing me in my face right now. What a pleasure. And the idea behind this is that in this moment we can be either a victim or we can be a co-creator. And what often happens, sometimes immediately or sometimes in a little bit, I've done this and I've experimented. Maybe I haven't used the exact phrase or the exact wording of this, but I have shifted. Instead of expecting external things to shift, I actually shifted inside. And the universe, as if by magic, shifted. As if by magic. Like, I'll give you an example from my ex-boyfriend. You know, he hated money. He judged money so much. And I would always like, what? This is such a stupid perspective. Like, but what I realized, he was actually mirroring back to me. I had so much judgment around money. I had so much judgment. And so instead of, I did bring it up and I wanted him to change, but instead what I started doing is I started changing. I started shifting internally, right? Because he was a mirror of whatever was sitting and whatever was uncomfortable within me. And then, you know, I mean, needless to say, no longer with that person because, you know, I've outgrown that person in so many different ways and in so many different perspectives. But it was a gift from him to me to actually take a look at my own money stories, if that makes sense.
Yes, it does. Thank you.
Sure. I'm glad you asked it. So I'll give you like another drastic example, I think, from my own life. And this is a big example that happened maybe now 15, 16 years ago. So at the time I was married to my first husband and I actually became pregnant. And interestingly, he did not want to have a child, but you know, in my mind at the time, it was kind of this idea that, well, if you have sex with someone, unprotected sex, then you kind of expect that your wife would get pregnant. So it's not like a, you know, that's what happens when you have sex. Like that's like a biology one-on-one. So, but what happened is that like we went into so much drama. We went into like there were arguments and this and that, and it really put me on in a very dark night of the soul for a number of years, like 5 or 6 years, where you know we ended up divorcing. There was just so much drama in our relationship happening at the time. I felt humiliated. I also felt that my relationship with him was really replicating my relationship between my mother and my father. And I was born and raised in Russia, so I grew up in that family where it was like a very unhealthy gender dynamics and all of that. And so I was like, okay, how did I get myself into this? Like, I'm basically repeating my parents' story in my own marriage where I feel disrespected, I feel abused, I feel like just so many different things. I was very much in a victim mentality. Like, I was so victimized to the point that I was even scared of leaving the relationship because, you know, in my mind, I just had so much shame about creating that change in my life. And you know, I was also not supported. I didn't have any examples of people being divorced in my family, so in many ways I was breaking the patterns, you know, of my culture, of my, you know, immediate family. And it was very extremely a period of deep darkness, isolation and shame. And little by little, you know, what started happening that also created mental illness, or maybe the mental illness was already there, but it just highlighted depression and all of this stuff like unworthiness. And the way I started taking out myself, it's not like I had any conscious awareness about the state of victimhood in which I was at the time. But little by little, what has helped is for me to start evolving, for me beginning to change, for me beginning to love myself, for me beginning to advocate for myself, know what my boundaries are, know my worth. And be able to express it, and actually not expecting necessarily the external support, but giving that support to myself. And now, looking backwards, I can articulate a lot of those things that have happened and the transformation that I have gone through. But at the time, it was just like a blind walking forward and just applying the tools and the things that actually seem to be working and making me feel better. But the point of me telling you this story, that on the one hand, right, like you can say, okay, well, I was like the old version of me, she was in this victimhood story. I thank the universe for what a pleasure? No fucking way. I did not. I did not say one day of those 5 years or 6 years of misery, universe, God, thank you so much for giving me this lesson. No, I was completely like he did this, I did, like all in this story. But the reason is that I'm sharing with you that, the tools that I've learned through the years of suffering, is that I wish I had those tools 10 years ago or 15 years ago, because it would have taken the journey of transformation and change away from like this personal story of shame and inadequacy, and made it less personal, made it more impersonal, knowing that our goal in life is to actually transform those patterns. Our goal in life is to change some of the generational things that were given from our parents or from our culture, right? Or even the money stories that we're transforming and changing. It's not, my invitation for you is to remove it and make it less personal, because it's not about, you have been given this little slice of shame and you are so inadequate. And instead, knowing that every single person who is living on this earth and dealing with these things, and maybe some people don't necessarily overtly share or admit that they go through those processes. Maybe they're not there yet, or maybe they are still ashamed of those processes. But my invitation is to really go through any of the processes of the transformation with utmost kindness, and self-compassion, because plenty of research shows, and this is what I have discovered now through my own mistakes, is that when you try to change by blaming yourself or shaming yourself, or like, oh, how am I not fully in my purpose? How am I not fully living what I'm supposed to be living in this lifetime? It actually creates more pressure, and it creates more fear and self-judgment. And those fear, pressure, and self-judgment, they're the energies that actually prevent the change from happening. I mean, this is such a big point, and I wish I knew it. Like, my life would have been so much easier had I known this, a decade ago, that the process of change, whether you're dealing with weight stuff or drinking or smoking or money issues or, relationship issues, it's not about it's not approaching any of these things from the place of feeling shame about those things, because shame is what actually prevents change. Like, give me some kind of sign that this is making sense. Okay. All right. And now there has been so much research on this topic. I'm so glad that there is research, because like these points, they need to be made so loud and clear. The point of self-compassion and self-kindness, as we approach change, because I know that Kristen Neff, she's in Texas. Brene Brown, she's also in Texas. Like, they have done both quantitative and qualitative research that really shows that any kind of change, I mean, I have also done research, and when I was at the university, and the last years I've been doing research on mindfulness and different aspects of mindfulness. And self-compassion is such an important element in this whole process, because we're really stepping into a new paradigm as people, as humans, as as a collective. And the only way to step into that is through taking baby steps, taking it slowly, and having compassion towards ourselves every step of the way. So the next thing that I want to jump into today is into different elements of purpose. And I'll tell you how many I've written: 14 different elements. Some of them might resonate with you stronger than others, because I feel that we're given kind of different lessons in life to learn. I don't know if I've been given all the lessons just to really nail it in every single aspect of my life. But I'm like, well, if you want to help people, make sure that you go through all of these lessons yourself. The universe is very generous in that way. but, but I have 14 areas, and I wanted to organize them so that if some of them speak to you more than others, you'll know just from listening to that probably this is something alive for you. This is probably something relevant for you. So the first one is health. And in this case, I define it as physical health because I have a separate rubric for the mental health. So it has been shown now that more than 90% of different diseases are connected to lifestyle choices, and even genetic diseases, they can get activated and they manifest in their life if there are specific lifestyle or behavioral things, or like things have to click in order for a disease to manifest. And that means that we have so much, I don't want to use the word control, agency over our physical health. I'll tell you what I'm personally working through. I had an injury when I was young. I just moved to the US at that time. I had a knee injury. And interestingly, my dad has the same injury on the same leg, and my brother has the same injury on the same leg. So I'm like, okay, this is fascinating. So I'm actually now helping myself heal this, and it's been already like more than 20 years since that injury has happened. I just got curious recently. I'm like, well, if I've healed other things, maybe I can actually heal my right knee. So I started this month, started doing sessions on myself, and it's getting better. Like in my experience, it cannot heal like overnight. Like things usually take time and there is progress. But I'm already feeling better because I removed the fear, and I have removed in my mind this idea that this is permanent and this is unchangeable. Because I was like, okay, well, this is a good thing to heal. I would love to like not have pain in my joints. So, and this is an invitation for you to think, especially, for some people, even though I cannot say that I specialize in health issues, I usually, like money, work, relationships, like mental health, those are the areas where I have way more experience. But I started experimenting with other things just because, why not? So this is one. And when you think about these different areas, when you think about them, the question for you is, where do I take things for granted? Where do I take things as permanent? Where do I take things as unchangeable? Where can I bring my curiosity into thinking, well, how can this evolve? How can this improve? How can this be better? And so when you have the mindset of curiosity, when you have this attitude of openness, that's when you start evolving your vessel. That's when you start evolving the light and bringing light into the situation. The second area that is connected to purpose is mental health. So mental health, for me, it's been a huge part of my purpose to take responsibility for my mental health, to help myself, and it's often being told, it's often told that even if you change one thought in your entire lifetime, you have already done a big chunk of your purpose. Like if you have the capacity to change one important thought that goes on autopilot, just like, I don't know, I'll give you some example: the world is a dangerous place, or I'm not good enough, or there's not enough money for everyone, or I'm not creative, or I'm bad at this. So if you change that one thought that is just on repeat and autopilot in your head in your lifetime, you have succeeded. Like you have succeeded in your purpose. And for mental health, what I see over and over, and I see it with my clients again, is that it's interesting to, okay, I feel some shame about saying, I'm just naming what I feel right now. I feel some shame, but I will have to say it because I promised to myself that I will be fully authentic. So um, what I see over and over with my clients, that fully mental health cannot be resolved unless we allow for the divine energy to step and come into our life. It's like it's like allowing our mind to get out of control, full control. And by divine, again, I don't care like what you believe in, how you define the divine. It's not that important, like for me or for my work or how you even call it. But what I have noticed, and this comes again from experience now of working with probably like several hundred people, is that when you allow for the divine to enter into your life gets better, including mental health. And it's it also brings an element of trust, because a lot of the mental health conditions like depression, anxiety, things like that, they have to do with trying to control things and feeling very, very isolated, feeling alone, feeling not supported, feeling that you don't have the agency to control your life. And so, what I've noticed over and over, and I think this is actually the dramatic shift that I see in one of my latest client that I mentioned to you, that who is a psychiatrist, is that she believed in the spirituality to a degree, but when we started using the spiritual tools for her own transformation, she was able to relax more, let go of anger, let go of the anxiety, let go of fear. And when she was able to do that, then other things in her life begin to improve. Okay, I feel like I'm going to just be stoned to death for saying what I've said, but burden a stick life. Okay, I'm still here. All is good.
No, why? I think you're right. I think it's both. I think it's physical and mental and divine.
Okay, you see, like I'm red like a.
Yeah, you read. We're good. We're still here.
I have this.
Nobody closed the door on the way out, you know? We stick around.
Oh God. Okay, let me have a drink. It's a cup of tea. So the next one. I appreciate you not exiting the Zoom on this moment. The next one is the area of romantic relationship. So I'll share with you some tendencies that I'm seeing that we are evolving into collectively in different areas. So the old model is the gender opposition, blame, shame, and kind of conflict type of relationship, also very deep in codependence. And what I'm seeing over and over is this movement into more collaborative partnership, collaborative relationship between, and I'm not defining gender, like it doesn't have to be heterosexual relationship, it can be, any kind of combination of relationship in this way. But still, and interestingly, in the past I've had clients who told me, or I wish I were gay, my romantic relationship would be so much easier. And what I see is that it actually not connected to whether you're homosexual or heterosexual, because these patterns, they're so deeply ingrained, they're not necessarily based on whether you're a man or a woman, they're just present in couples, and we're evolving out of this dynamic in being in partnership. The next one is friendship, and it's very similar to this. The old style is codependence and kind of trying to fit in, even in friendships. It's also connected to community, just trying to fit in and not being yourself, not being able to express your needs, people pleasing, things like that. And this relationship also are evolving in the way that we're able to be more authentic and heart centered in friendships as well. The next one is work. So the old model is tell me what to do, and it's very much repetitive tasks, like a hierarchical model of work where the boss knows everything and you kind of just follow. And what I see, and I see this quite a bit, especially if I work with corporate clients, if I work with CEOs, if I work with COOs or any other level of managers, what I see is that the work is evolving quite a bit because what's needed more and more is agency from everyone, taking initiative and creative ideas, taking responsibilities, being able to really show up and share your skills, so that there is a huge evolution as well. Again, money, the old model of money is that there's not enough, like a lot of the scarcity mindset. And also, I would say, I mean, most of the problems that I see with clients, it's I have different kinds of clients, but with money, it's either I'm not worthy of money. That's kind of one idea. And another one is even if I have a lot of money, I still feel scarcity. I still, so like if whether if I have make $500,000 or 1 million or $2 million, I still don't feel necessarily secure. So in this way, money is not even helping to heal this internal wound of not feeling secure in life. So we're evolving from this to a healthier relationship with money. And I think this also brings our relationship to the earth, the way we care for the earth, the way we consume things, what we prioritize and value. The next one is parenting. I mean, probably most of you can relate to this either through being a child or by having your own children. The old model is be cute, be silent, don't speak. And the new model is actually respectful relationship with kids, acknowledgement of needs, preferences, opinions, and actually maintaining like this agency in children. The next one is community, and it's similar to friendships, the old model of community. And, you know, I can attest to that coming from communist Russia, where you have to be like everyone else, kind of fit in and think like everyone. In the new model of community, maintaining your individuality while also caring for others as well. So it's, you know, there can be extremes of losing yourself completely or being extremely individualistic. And I feel now we're being pulled into a gentle medium where we can be ourselves, have our gifts, but at the same time, care for each other. The next area, it's area number 9 on my list, is creativity. The old way of thinking about creativity is to be creative, you have to be special, like it's a gift you're born with, and only few people are born with creativity. Another aspect of creativity is that you cannot make money on it, which is evolving to recognizing that everyone is creative, and the way creativity is expressed in people is quite different, quite different. The next one is spirituality. We touched it a bit. So the old model, I don't know if it's even called more spirituality or religion, but connection to God and divine. So the old model is one person proclaims the truth. It's very much judgment and fear based and control based. And what I'm seeing more and more, and I mean, that's what I actually teach and educate people about really, is how to channel, how to access their intuition, how to strengthen their intuition, and that everyone has access to God or divine, and that it's not necessarily internal, it's actually within us as well, it's internal as well. And it's not about avoiding punishment in the future, but about creating heaven on earth right now, here and now. Let me take a breath before I go into the last 4 and see if this is making sense so far. Wilma, I'm reading your notes, so I just know that whatever you've shared with me, I read those. The next area is contribution. So it's a contribution. The old model is that only a few can make that contribution and that most people are powerless and they really cannot change anything. I had to think about this quite a bit. And I think in the last few months, there were some still elements of powerlessness in me that, like, oh, what's the point of doing anything? Because, I cannot really create the change that I want to create. But I think that's where my consciousness was evolving in this. And this is what I see also in the clients that come my way, recognizing that you don't need to change everything in the world, but you can take responsibility for a slice that is important to you in the way you can make a contribution. And the small difference matters. In fact, the more focused you are, the bigger the change and the bigger the momentum you can create for the whole and the collective. So it's about really giving yourself the permission to step into being the change maker and recognizing that you are able to make a difference, whether it's the difference for your kids' lives, the way you parent your kids, the way you show up at work, the way you treat your clients, the way you show up on a daily basis in the grocery store, or larger projects and ideas that you do have. The next one is about accepting gifts and talents. So the old model was very much about like, I'm worthless. I think we're collectively moving out of this idea that, I'm not good enough, or any kind of those thoughts. And it becomes a more of a humanistic approach and a humanistic outlook on life, where we recognize that every person has talents and gifts. And so, in fact, every single person is needed for the collective to thrive. And so it's important for each one of us to not compare ourselves to others, to not think we're less than someone or more than someone, but really acknowledge that everyone is important for the collective to thrive. The next one is enjoying work. And this is the shift from mindless work, repetitive work. And I'm happy to see that there are a lot of technology shifts and breakthroughs that are happening, where I think there will be so much shift in the way we do work, and really prioritizing slowing down, being more present, and really enjoying the things that we're doing. And this is also connected to coming out of autopilot and really counting the intention and the energy with which we come into doing the work and really doing anything in our lives. And the last one is karma. That's the last aspect of the purpose that I've written down. And according to a number, I think, of teachers and a number of people I've studied or learned from or read their books, a lot of it is really talking about coming back to life to pay a debt. I can share another story with you from my relationship with my father, which is a very, very karmic relationship. It's been a very difficult relationship until just the last few years, where things have shifted dramatically. He has been one of the biggest teachers in my life as well. But what I have also learned is that we've been in each other's life for many, many lifetimes. And whether you believe in reincarnation or not, it doesn't really make a difference. But the idea is for us to really open up to this divine energy. If you have hard relationship with someone in your life who is outside of your family, let's say it's a neighbor, this it's very unlikely that you will create a change in your life. It's very unlikely. It's just a neighbor. You can move, you can ignore them, you can close the door and never talk to them in your life. But if it's a very close family member, the reason they are being difficult and the reason they're being kind of assholish in our life is for us to really, really wake up. And we cannot ignore them. We cannot pretend that they're not there, because the pain or whatever they bring into our lives is quite palpable and very proximal. And so it's also an opportunity to forgive, to learn about ourselves, to wake up, to really wake up. So, and what I am also, and why I put karma as another aspect of the purpose is that I'm seeing this within myself, and also I'm seeing this with my clients as well, is that many people think about karma as a negative thing. I don't think it's negative. When we start intentionally saying that I embrace change, and I'm embracing engaging with change on a voluntarily basis, life does not need to present you with difficult situations because you're on the top of it. Like you already know proactively that you need to work on a specific thing. You know, the old times, I mean, that was the same for my life, is that I needed to fall down, like literally fall down. So for the universe to tell me I have to slow down, or I have to, you know, take a week off. I would literally fall down. And if I fall down the first time, I would ignore it. I'm like, okay, let's run, let's do 10 more projects and do this and that. And then I would fall again and twist my ankle or something. That was my old model of living or learning, because I was like, I was just running my patterns. Now, if I get tired, I'm like, I have to eject myself from my business and my work. I have to take 1 week, 2 weeks off before shit hits the fan. So it becomes more, um, okay, the car accident. Yes. Yes. I mean, that's a big wake up, right? You cannot ignore that one when you're in a car accident. Like, you're like, it's in your face, it's in your body. You cannot ignore that one. So, and you know, when we become more proactive and sensitive, and when we start engaging in the process of evolution willingly, these things stop happening. Actually, they don't happen because we don't need them. We don't need, like, a minor thing. Now we can hear the call for something, for a break or for a shift, or that I have to take care of my body before it like gets sick, or that I have to talk to my husband before we actually start screaming at each other. You know, like, you start feeling them because the tension or the energy is there, and you're like, okay, well, I have to address it now before it really gets worse. So I find that now it's not so much about pain of the karma. Actually, I think nowadays, like, my mind doesn't even think like, oh, okay, this is karmic. I mean, sometimes I get into relationship like, okay, well, this is weird because this reminds me of that. It's like, it's very weird. But for the most part, it becomes more into learning how to manifest, learning how to create, learning how to enjoy yourself, self-expression, and things like that. So it becomes more about this, you know, passive way of thinking about life and kind of reacting to life, to becoming more active, conscientious, willing, and active participant, where you take the agency. And I have been using this past year the word leadership in with my clients, like really calling a lot of my clients leaders. And I never thought of myself as a leader in the past. To be quite honest, I had also many biases about leadership, what leadership looks like, what it is, the reasons for leadership, and the motivation for leadership. But what I see, especially based on all of this 14 rubrics that I've shared with you now, is that a lot of the clients that I work with, they are leaders. They're leaders by the way they parent, you know, the way how they change parenting, how they do relationship, how they work with money, how they change their agency in their life. So that requires quite a bit of self-leadership. Like, you cannot do this work being authentic and aware in life without being a leader for yourself, because you have to be, like, you have to be a leader. First, you're a leader for yourself. You are managing your own energy, you are healing yourself, you are breaking those patterns, you're shifting the old paradigm into a new way of being in all of these different areas. And then you becoming a leader by also, you know, guiding someone. Being a leader doesn't mean that people put you on a pedestal. Being a leader doesn't mean that you like know everything. That's not what leadership is. You're still walking, you're still evolving, you're still learning, you're still doing all of that. But it's a lot of about really leadership. So let me take another moment here and see if like any thoughts, questions, anything that came through for you so far. What resonates, what doesn't resonate, what brings up questions. I know it's quite a bit we talked about. Yes, Wilma, go ahead, please. You can unmute yourself.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, wonderful. Well, this has been very interesting, and I knew I had to be on the call. I had to be live on the call, and today when I couldn't get connected, I was like, oh no, I'm gonna have to listen to the replay. So I didn't get into like 10 minutes after, but it's all making sense now
Mm,
because what I'm hearing you say, and I'm almost 70 years old, and I've known for a very long time that I have a great gift to share with the world. That's part of my purpose for being here, and I have no idea what it is. I
mm,
do know that my physical body needs to have full mobility, and I mean, I've been hit by a car, getting run over by a car twice in my lifetime, no broken bones. So I know that I'm here, like my full body is part of my mission. So
mm,
when you're talking about the the physical health first, I have developed some very minor physical things like a tooth pain and um, a diminished eyesight, like, so I need to wear glasses and whatnot. But it seems to be somehow intertwined with my money issue that even while I'm talking to you, my finger is wrapping around my other finger, almost like the two issues are intertwined.
mm,
So it's like I need to have more than enough money to fulfill my mission in life. But I've not gotten to that stage where I have more than enough. I've gotten to the stage where I'm grateful to be able to keep a roof over my head. I guess what I'm rambling on about is listening to all these 14 things. The two things that are standing out to me is that it's confirming my awareness that somehow or other my physical issues are tied around my money block. And
mm.
once I clear one of them, the other will clear on its own. So this session is giving me food for thought, and I feel energy going forward. Like I feel like I was meant to be here live. I was meant to hear and see you when your face got red and you felt um, self-conscious. I had no judgment over that at all. I was listening to your words and resonating with them, and I guess I've come further along on my spiritual journey than I thought, because now it's just a simple, instead of a desperation, like how do I fix this money issue? It's like, okay, now playing along with these 14 thoughts you've given us, I feel I've almost got the key that now I can go forward. I don't know if I'm making any sense to you. I just wanted to share that
Thank you. Thank you
this
so
was a
much.
big aha for me. But I love to clear the money thing. Yes. But for now, I have to deal with whatever. Thank you.
You're so welcome, Wilma. And tomorrow, I would recommend that, you set the intention because we'll be doing the live energy session. So even though I'll set the intention for purpose, but I really, really recommend bringing in any personal intentions that you have. So if you have a personal intention about clearing money stuff or physical healing, you can also bring that into the session as well.
Can I intend for both, for the
Yep.
flow of money and
Full
I'm
abundance, but
trying
physical
to see
and
the
financial
I
abundance.
want physical and financial abundance. That's perfect. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah. Physical and financial abundance. And I would just, it's a perfect session for that because it's like really relaxing into the intention and see what, like that's all I've been experimenting, even with my own physical issues. I just like, okay, well, let me do it And I would set an intention for it. And, I go through the hour of the session, and it took me, I think I've done 2 or 3 now, and I need to do maybe another 2 or 3 to like really finalize it. But I started seeing progress. I started seeing movement. Yep. Thank you for sharing. Anything else or anyone else?
Yeah, I mean, for me personally, it made a lot of sense what you said. I think you touched on a lot of aspects. Um, the class is, or the lecture calls for the purpose. So, like, I guess you gave us quite a bit of choices there to find your purpose. You know, I think you
And
covered
it can't
pretty
be
well.
all of it. It can't be all of it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just that, how to find it. It's a strategy that I'm more kind of like, I understand be gentle on yourself. I understand that be kind, don't really, like push yourself or whatever. But at the same time, it's like, okay, I think we all kind of like at one point or another, I don't know if we all, maybe I speak only for myself, periodically question ourselves, what is our purpose? Why are we here? So is it to be a mom? Is it to be a worker? Is it to be a daughter? Is it to be community leader? What is it? So yeah, no, it's very helpful. Thank you. I just wanted to comment that it made sense to me. So I'm with you on that.
And knowing you, you question yourself quite a bit. But it's interesting. There are specific roles that you have mentioned, right? Like, oh, is it this? Like, yes, there are different roles that we might take on. But then I'm just tuning in I'm taking a moment to tune in. I would say if there are places where you're not satisfied with yourself, like you can tell. I know this is like, for example, from me, and I've had gazillions of readings about my purpose. I mean, I can give myself a reading, or I've also had readings from other people. But what I find for myself, there are places sometimes I'm quite like, it's almost like I'm not fully happy with myself about something. I know that I can do more, I can be more, I can do better. And so for me, the purpose can be like a big thing, it can be one thing, but it can also be a day-to-day momentary experience where the purpose becomes like more granular. um, it's not just me to be an amazing mentor for people, but how can I show up for one client? Like in the past, my goals was, okay, let me be like an amazing mentor, for people in general, but how can I get there? The only way for me to get there is to be 100% present with every person who comes into my life, really, as a client, right? Because I cannot build anything bigger or better if I am not fully showing up in the present moment. And so the purpose becomes, how can I be just what I can be in the present moment? And this is actually going to be a lot of it tomorrow, because the practice itself, the energetic practice, it becomes really all about the present moment. Like, how can you come into the present moment? How can you, a lot of this changes, even those 14 areas that we've named, if I look now on my life backwards, like where I became more conscious, like the last 15 years, the change is dramatic, like insanely dramatic in my life. My mental health, my physical health. I have new partnership. I'm a mom now. I didn't finish that story, but the first story I was sharing, but I actually ended up doing an abortion. And so, for me to, it was a dream to become a mom, but with a partner that would be supportive, and the partner who would be kind, and different kind of relationships. So the changes are dramatic over for the 15 years, but the changes on a day-to-day level are tiny. Like sometimes I'm so annoyed with the progress on a daily to day. I'm like, okay, this is not fast enough. This is not big enough. This is, and then I'm like, have to slow myself down and say to myself, no, just baby steps, like everyday baby steps, because it adds up. Because when I look back at the last 15 years, my life is like day and night in all of those areas. But it requires daily, to not fall asleep daily, to wake up daily, to commit daily, to make progress, even if it's tiny progress daily, and so I would, you might not have a full idea of your purpose. Like I would never have an idea that I'll be married to this particular man, or I'll have this kid, or I didn't even have an idea that I would be doing this particular work or even giving this particular workshop, right? Like I didn't have the whole plan in my head, but even when I left, it's a story for a different time, but when I left my university professor position and decided to start my business, I kind of had like somewhat an idea of what I'll be doing. And, I was thinking I'll be sharing these tools and these tools based on this training. But what I am doing now is a little bit different because I've learned so many things on the way, or I've learned what works, I've learned what doesn't work. So it shifted, like the exact details have shifted quite a bit. I maybe have had a general idea of what I want to go. And I was just reading yesterday about Oprah Winfrey's journey. She was trained to be, I think, a public speaker or something like that. And then she got into the TV industry where she was reporting on the news. And she's like, well, I hate it. I don't like reporting about the news of what's happening in the world. And she was demoted to being a talk show facilitator. And in the talk show, she was interviewing. And so for her, it was like, oh, I actually like doing this better. And then during one of those experiences, she also, I think, was interviewing a, a guy and a husband and a wife. And it so happened that the husband was cheating on the wife and she was humiliated publicly on the TV. And she's like, I hate this. Like, I don't want to do this to people. That's not my job. I don't want to be humiliating people on the TV. So, and that's how her new idea, her clarity came in, is that I don't want to be humiliating people. I want to be raising consciousness. I want to be sharing stories of people who overcome difficulties. I want to be sharing stories of people who find a way out of darkness into the light. So through all of those mistakes, right? Like through demotion of her job, through hating what she was doing, she had to like step in, and then kind of the new thing came in, and the new thing came in. So none of us know fully about the exact purpose unless we're willing to walk and make mistakes, basically. If this helps a bit.
Yeah, as you were talking, actually, you kind of remind me of Oprah Winfrey. I'm like, "Oh, I was wondering what's her steps." I'm sure that she didn't have all the degrees and PhD in physics, that's for sure. And some of her views is interesting nowadays. But I think it's also, if I may comment, yes, because you're a deep thinker, you touched all the aspects on all spectrums. The speed of life is so fast right now. We cannot expand more. You know what I mean? And my suggestion, if I may, I would keep it to like certain topics that like really touched everybody, like motherhood, like work, like money, and keep it at the high level. Just because I think when you start thinking about all the aspects of change and purpose, I think you can get overwhelmed. I was
Mhm.
also thinking about doing my own podcast, just not for money, but like for the topics that is more involve teenagers now, because I have two. I really don't know what to talk to them about, so I was just curious, to bring them into the conversation and honesty, and like what really is important for them. Because as you say, like life is so different now, like looking back at 20 years, looking back at 10 years, looking back at 5 years. But now the funny thing is that you cannot really even predict anymore. You know, if you know what you would be doing 5 years, 10 years from now, you don't know now what you're going to be doing a year from now. So to keep a story short, you know, essentially, yeah, willingness to make a mistakes, but keep it to the point. You know, that would be kind of my, not suggestion I say, but my you know, like when you're trying to deliver objective, is that the yeah, you know, just because I think you cannot really fix it all, and there is nothing like really what you can do about all the other things. Like I have dyslexia, I cannot fix it. You know what I mean? I have to live with that. And even if I make mistakes, yeah, I have a choice to say damn you, or accept it and say, yeah, well, shit happens. Okay, moving on. Nobody died. So it's a mindset as well,
Mm,
I think.
beautiful. Thank you for
Sorry
sharing.
for my
Thank you for sharing. Celine, you had something to say as well.
Yeah, what I wanted to add is that all the areas that you listed are actually all part of us. So when you work on one area, you're also affecting other areas. If you're working on your personal relationship, that change also affects your work relationship, your relationship with your community. So it's, when you think about it that way, it's not this huge mountain that you have to, climb. Every little step is actually a ripple effect to the other areas. And I think it takes courage to really do that. Just kind of pick one thing that is bothering you. For me, I feel things, so I kind of follow my feelings. If I feel that my relationship needs some help, I kind of tune into that and then work on that. And that little change, I have no doubt, because I am one whole person, also affects my attitude towards my colleagues, towards my other friends. And, it just basically helps me evolve. I think the point is not that there's so much that we need to change with these 14 areas. The point is that once you make one change, it's going to help all of your other areas too.
I love it. I love it. I love how you brought the kind of multi-dimensionality into it, also almost like a quantum butterfly effect, like tiny shift can unravel the other things. I love it. Thank you. Thank you. So, uh, so the homework for you, it can be homework before tomorrow, or you can just entertain this idea to implement, is to pause. And I want to remind you about this exercise, that you have an option to pause when you get reactive, and you can say, what a pleasure, what a pleasure. So thank you, what a pleasure. And this allows you to shift the mindset from being a victim to actually being more curious. And what a pleasure. Yes, exactly. And it helps you to shift your consciousness a little bit from feeling disempowered, feeling from kind of being away, being on the recipient end of life, to like, okay, well, life is happening actually for me, not to me. Life is happening for me, for my highest good, for my highest evolution, for my highest expression, for my highest potential to be expressed. And so when you shifted, oh, what a pleasure, thank you, what a pleasure, it's like, oh, it's happening for me. It's happening for me. Let me get curious. Let me get present. Let me remember that I have power, choice, all of those things are within me, the agency. And I love, Celine, what you've shared, that, what is the baby step? What is the tiny step, the baby step that I can make in this area, because it might impact everything else in my life? What is the tiny next step? And it's actually, the first time I heard this idea, it was from Sark. Actually, she was one of my mentors in the passed. I don't know if you know her, but she's a lady who I think she still has it. She used to write like lots of different books and cards, and she told me never get overwhelmed by the big goal. Like always break it down into little baby steps and just take the baby step. That's all that you need. So I want to finish today by sharing with you how we can work together, because I've promised this to myself and I want to keep my promise to myself. So yes, life is happening for me. Exactly. So I will talk about the one-on-one work that I do with clients. So my prices just raised actually this month, and my current one-on-one work with clients is $3,500 for 6 sessions, or $5,500 for 12 sessions. But what I'm doing on this call is I'm actually open to giving you $1,000 discount from the 6 session, or $1,300 discount from 12 sessions. So that becomes 2,500 for 6 session and becomes 4,200 for 12 session with payment plans available. What I do now, and this is the best model that I found that works for me for my work with clients, is that I meet with them either once a month or twice a month, and I also provide Voxer support in between. And what Voxer support does is that if you have any questions, or if you kind of get stuck in your head or start thinking about something that is like not fully making sense, you have access to me and you can send me a message, say, hey, Maria, like I'm kind of stuck right here. How can I reframe it? How can I think about it differently? And what my clients have found helpful about this Voxer support is that they don't have to wait for 2 weeks or for a month to shift, but they can actually shift in the moment. So the Voxer support is available during the working week. Sometimes I respond on weekends, but in general, I just give myself a grace period of not working on weekends. What I also, another bonus that I ended, and all of these bonuses are valid until April 12th. So you have more than a week to think about it. And another bonus is that I give access to my spirit channeling course, because what I have found is that most of my clients, they need that skill to learn how to trust themselves, how to access their intuition. And so, until April 12th, I also give a bonus in addition to one-on-one to access the spirit channeling course. And this is like a step-by-step process of learning how to channel, how to strengthen your intuition, also how to be less perceptive to other people's energies, because a lot of people who are sensitive and empaths, we take on, or I used to take on other people's stuff quite a bit. And I have learned, especially in the work that I do, how to not do that, because otherwise it's not sustainable and I cannot maintain my mental health and physical health. So I have actually just last year created a bonus for that course for people in the helping professions of how to not take on other people's energy. So they said the extra bonuses. So I'm basically giving you, and the course on its own costs $666. So I'm giving you the extra bonuses by reducing the price from $3,500 to $2,500 for 6 sessions, and from $5,500 to $4,200 for 12 sessions, plus the spirit channeling access to the course. And you can always message me if you have any questions about it. If you are on this call, we're probably a good match, but if you have any questions, I'd rather, have a conversation with you. I'd rather actually answer your questions rather than just sign you up blindly, because I take quite a bit of, I commit. When I work with my clients, I commit. You commit to yourself, but when I work with my clients, I want to see you succeed. I also, I care quite a bit. And so it needs to be a good match for us to work together. Again, if you're on this call, we probably, you have been in my world and I know you, so I would not randomly just sign up random people. So if you have any questions and if you want to actually have a conversation about it, I'm more than happy to chat. So that's really all I have for today. And tomorrow we'll go into the practice session and the energy work session. I'm really excited about that as well. let me know if you have any additional question before we depart today.
Thank you, Maria, for this wonderful session.
You're so welcome. Thank you for coming, Selena. I appreciate it. It's good to see you again.
Definitely, yeah.
Thank you so much. It was a very interesting, very informative session. I learned a lot today.
You're so
Thank you for moving the needle.
That's all we need. We just need to like little by little.
Exactly. I think we got the same email, looking at your sweater and mine.
Yes, that's the dress code for
Today.
Thursday.
Yeah.
I know. Wilma, okay. Yes, I got messages. Life is happening for me. Yes, exactly. Exactly. Alrighty, beautiful ladies and gentlemen, if you're ever watching this, I'll see you tomorrow. And if you have any questions in the meantime, just feel free to message me.
Awesome. You're gonna share the video of this session?
Yeah.
Thank you.
I can also, if you want to, I can share the handout as well with the 14 different areas. I can share that.
Yes.
I would
Yeah.
love that. Yeah.
That would be awesome.
Okay, I'll
All
do
right.
that. See you tomorrow. Bye.
Tomorrow.